Welcome to self-discoverywisdom.com, formerly known as Self-Discovery Media. On these podcasts, you're going to hear people who speak from the heart. They've taken the journey in life. Many things have happened to them, but they've changed it to happening for them. And in their strength, their courage, they've discovered their abilities and their wisdom, and they are now sharing it here with you. Do enjoy each show. We bring it to you with love and knowing that it's going to help you on your journey of life. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Building Your Business right here on selfdiscoverywisdom.com. I'm your host, Sarah Troy, and my guest today is Rebecca Visser. She helps people, high-achieving women, escape burnout and build fulfilling lifestyles and careers. Well, how does she do that? Well, from a very young age, she struggled with perfection and tried to control every aspect of her life to get ahead. Despite achieving seemingly the perfect career, a good salary, a good title, accolades from bosses and peers, she felt completely unfulfilled. This relentless pursuit to achieve throughout her life inevitably led her to severe burnout, as it would. Her only choice left was to take 6 months off to reconnect with herself. In retrospect, I call it the cosmic two before, she realized that she was never living in the moment, always focused on the future or berating herself for past mistakes. Through coaching and other holistic practices, she's witnessed the power of letting go of limited beliefs and connecting with her inner wisdom. By sharing her story today, she aims to help others find peace and fulfillment that she's discovered on her journey. The world needs more people pursuing their unique talents so they can reconnect with their joy, and we can all better fare societal changes. We can also be the change that society needs, right? Because we will talk about change, but the change doesn't happen out there. It happens in here, doesn't it, Rebecca? Welcome to the show, hon.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the introduction. I'm so happy to be here and share part of my story.
It's a story that we do actually hear way too often where people are chasing this carrot, this golden carrot, this illusion. If only you get to the top, if only you make this amount of money, if only you live here, if only you look like this, then you'll be happy. And you're chasing, you're chasing, you're chasing, you go, okay, well, when does happiness step in? Right? So
Yeah.
how do we actually look at the facade of it and go, okay, not for me. Happiness is an inside job.
Oh boy, yes, that's the $1 million question. And I know
Mm,
it very intimately. Like as you shared in your intro, that was very much my life experience. I'll even share, I was talking to my mom this weekend, and this topic came up, and she was saying how, wow, I had this daughter who was, so dedicated to her studies, so into everything around school and doing so well. I had this opposite problem with my kid here. So it's something I've carried with me definitely into adulthood. And yeah, we can certainly get into some of the tools and things. But first of all, yes, it's an inside job. I realized that um, I wasn't happy with myself. I didn't
yes,
speak to
yes.
myself very well. My
Mm,
emotions were low, and I didn't have any connection to my soul's purpose. So,
mm.
those are a lot of things that started to really change for me. And yeah, really start to accept my path and live it with brilliance and brightness.
Mm. The greatest gift you gave yourself was, the old cosmic two before burnout was that 6 months, right? That time period of just like letting go. The thing is, we're so wound up like a clock all the time, and we keep winding, keep winding. Yes, that's before digital, folks. We used to wind our watches and clocks. And if you wind too tightly, eventually the spring will break. And this is what we do to ourselves as human beings. We keep winding and winding just a little bit more, just a little bit. The expectation is more. Well, you do so good. Now you can take on this. Now you can do that. And this, having to live up to this perfection, which we have perfect moments in life where we feel perfect at certain stages of our life, but perfection is an illusion, isn't it?
Definitely, definitely. And just something I would add too, as I reflect on my experiences, is when you start to show that you're capable, that you're high achieving, that you deliver on high quality work consistently, people inadvertently keep putting stuff onto
Yes,
your shoulders.
yes,
And when you
yes.
don't have the capacity or the worthiness or whatever to put up boundaries, it just compounds what you're already doing on top of yourself. So that was certainly my experience. I'll just share a little bit
Mm,
of what led up to that crash is, managing over 1 million digital products, an international team, a team of 2,000 different contributors, and then throw on top of that an acquisition deal halfway across the world. So working crazy hours. And yeah, you better believe my shoulders were full and there was nothing else to do but buckle. Um, but I love that phrase, cosmic 2x4,
yes.
because
Mm,
finally,
hmm.
all of these things my body was telling me for a decade in advance,
Yeah,
gut issues, horrific sleeping, anxiety, depression, all of these things, just I couldn't
yeah.
not listen to them
No,
anymore. I had
wackaroo.
to, yeah, I had to take a break. Absolutely.
Why do we, get to that point where we have to wait for the cosmic 2x4 to flatten us? And again, I think it's because we get so caught on the treadmill of this
Yeah.
expectation. And it's not just the dictation of your work, it's society, our families. Eh, When you work earning the six figures and you've got this title, she made it. Well, did she? If she's utterly miserable or she's becoming ill, or suffering from depression, is that making it? Right? We've really got to kind of, I think, reprioritize of what making it is. And I think making it is somebody that gets up every day with a smile on their face and is truly happy to be doing what they're doing and being that contributor without it costing them their well-being.
So well said. And you're completely right. I had to completely redefine what I should be doing and start to replace that and reframe that with what I wanted to be doing.
Yeah,
And honestly, when I started taking stock of what I had desired in my life and the life I was living, I realized there was a huge gap there. And I would just add that as a society, perhaps as an observation, and certainly for myself, I realized that I was living on the goal line of life and not the soul line of life.
yeah.
And that's been the major shift for me as well.
Those are aha moments. I mean, do they just kind of suddenly hit you and you take a breath, or is it something that you were walking down that journey of self-recovery, of self-discovery, of who you are now, and then you stop and you pause and you kind of look back, or did you kind of get light bulb moments?
Yeah, for myself, I think it was an unfolding. I was a
Mm,
pretty tightly wound bud and I needed to slowly blossom. Looking back to, I remember seeing a naturopath about my gut issues and them saying, now I recognize this as like a caution, but they were saying, you can take the supplements, you can do all this stuff, but maybe the ultimate thing is to remove yourself from the triggers
yes.
that are causing this. But this was 8 years ago. I wasn't ready to hear that,
Right. Mm,
So, but
hmm.
I think now looking back, there were all of these winks and all of
Yeah,
these
nudge, nudge, wing,
things
wing, yeah.
that maybe I took another step over here into
Yeah.
considering it. But for me, I don't know if it was a perfect light bulb night and
Mm.
day, but it was many years of receiving these little lamps guiding my
Yeah.
way to a new
Yeah.
path.
The candle to the big beam, right?
Exactly. Yes.
And for some people it is something that really happens in their life that kind of pivots them. But then as they go through the journey of recovery, they realize they've been getting the tap on the shoulder and they just have been ignoring it. And when you're so busy doing and not being, you're not going to receive those messages because you're just too busy.
Yeah. You don't have the mental
Mm,
capacity. And that's why I feel really passionate about my work too, because when you're in that state, you
yeah,
can't even vision out what else is possible. You're just in this survival
yeah,
mindset, just trying to meet your needs, do what you think you should do. The creativity, the imagination, the empathy for yourself tends to, you know,
yeah.
evaporate during those
Yeah,
periods.
suck it up. You can
Yeah,
do it, right? Trudge
yeah,
on. Yes. Who gave us those lines?
exactly. Yes. And I think these are major skills that, at least reflecting on my life, and it's no critique of my parents, is just
Yeah.
overall, I
Yes.
wasn't taught the skills to direct compassion to
Mm.
myself, to explore who I was at my core and not just what I was doing all the time.
It's, I mean, very much, I'm sure your parents are in around my age group, and you know that need to succeed to be somebody, right? It was security, it was respect, it was self-value, and we were taught that. And we were taught that that is, where your value lies. Well, we know that it is lies, right? And that nobody can sustain that, and it is fake. Once you get there, you realize how empty it is and how empty you feel. So how can you keep on giving? But we were brought up in that expectation, and to actually talk about going in and finding yourself, and it was all considered, woo woo or cultish, or like you're losing it. And so it took a few brave people to kind of say, I don't care what you want to call it. This is the journey I'm taking. Whereas today, there is permission abound, and there's an invitation abound to please come on this path of your own self-discovery. And there isn't the stigma with it as it would have been in your parents' and my time.
Yeah. And can you imagine if we continue to do this work
Mm,
together as a collective, how this
yes.
will dilute over the
Yes.
generations and the
Yes.
generations? And I can only imagine how empowered and spectacular our world could be if we all felt super connected to who we are and the path we need to walk.
Amen. I mean, this, we are the change we seek. We are the love and the peace that we seek. But right now, we are the turmoil, that it was in within us is reflected across the news, across the world. And that's inner turmoil that we're bringing out. And this is really kind of at the present moment, I think the world saying, it is the cosmic two by four that we're getting from the universe right now, saying, world, look at all this destruction, this division, this hate, this disconnect, and tell me, is this what living is about? Because this is not what we have planned for you.
Mhm. Yeah, and I'm hearing this like spiritual connection come through too, is that we're not just harming the world externally, we are harming ourselves. We are part of this world.
Yes.
And so there's this deep healing as a
Yeah.
collective that is coming through. And I really deeply want to believe that we will together heal and find our way again. But yes, I so resonate that this is a pivotal moment in our time period to make different choices and choose not to harm ourselves and everything
Exactly.
around us.
But I mean, it is someone like you who's been through the journey. You understand completely. I've had numerous CEOs, top sellers, and making stacks of money, got the big house, the big car, the prestige, only to have no time in the day to enjoy anything. Get the divorce, kids hate them, hate themselves, end up being sick, and they go, what is it all for? And they take a different road, a different path, and then truly understand the real enrichment and abundance of life is in our meaningful purpose, which isn't what we've been told the bill of sale. But the more and more people like yourself stand up and speak about it, this is where I was. You don't have to burn out. You can have a little flame. You don't have to completely combust in order to change, right? And that change is something that is essential, right? But at the same time, isn't as hard as you think. And so we need people like yourself that help pave the way for other people. They've got to walk it, but you're giving them the skills and the tools and the encouragement to walk that path. And then as they see inspiration begets invitation, as they see the joy in what you're doing, and the joy is also in peace and calmness, it's like, well, I want some of that. How do I get that?
Absolutely. Yeah, and I hear it from clients, friends, just, well, first of all, just share that
Yeah.
they can barely recognize me. I
Mm,
sometimes speak to people on a discovery call and they're like, "You seem so chill, you seem this."
yes.
And I'm like, if only you could have met
Yes.
me a decade ago, how fascinating of an experience that would be. But you're completely right. When we're brave enough to be
Mm,
ourselves, we can support others and being brave and choosing themselves as well. And it's definitely where I find my passion and my purpose now. And being a motivator, being a
mm,
teacher, being a guide, being an advocate for everyone's magnificence, because I really truly believe that we're gold on the inside, yet we've
yeah.
put all of these bandages and
Mm,
plaster and barriers to keep the big bad world out. But the irony is when we let that in, that's where the real healing starts.
yes. And then, as you talked about the resonance, the more light that comes from within you, the more you shine bright on the outside, and the more people feel that and want to be a part of that, and the more it ignites it in them, right? Misery loves company, but joy loves joy. And so the more we step into joy and hopefulness and the willingness to be that change, the courage, the strength, the ability, the more we set that invitation to what is possible. But we need people like yourself to say it is possible. You've just got to be willing to do the work. And then people go, I don't want to do the work. I like being miserable. It doesn't take so much work. Well, how's that dealing for you?
Yes,
Your
exactly.
body's breaking down, you're mentally breaking down. Nothing in your life pleases you. Absolutely everything has got something wrong with it. Nobody wants to be around you because you're so miserable, other than other miserable people. Is that working for you? And also, are you being a contributor to this planet?
Hmm. Yes. I know for myself, looking at the abundance in my life was completely inaccessible to me. Everything had a flaw.
Hmm.
And there was something that I was thinking of as you were sharing.
It'll
I've
come to
just
you in a
lost
moment.
it, but
It's
it'll come
okay.
back to
It'll come flooding
me.
back. Yeah.
Yeah.
I,
Um,
that the point, though, isn't it? What I think you're trying to say is that at some point we've got to make the effort, right? When you're really, really tired, you don't want to get out of bed, but the more you're in bed, the more tired you are, right? Is at some point you're going to go, I have to get up. I have to get up. I have to get mobile. I have to do something. And there's that point where we can't escape it. We just have to.
Yeah, and I just remembered what I was going to share. I think too, as an independent person, I had a misunderstanding for many, many years that in order to, do all this work, I had to do it all by myself.
Yeah.
If I
Yes.
was going to be accomplished or make a change, I had to do it all by myself. And I even experienced that as a freelancer too, where I wasn't part of professional networks. I didn't connect with people. I didn't um, lean on my relationships to support me and feel supported. And I think that's something that people need to, if they so choose, to
Yeah.
decide for themselves. I'm ready to be supported. I'm
Yes.
ready to ask for help. I'm ready and understand that I can't do this all by myself. And that too is such a powerful moment in people's lives because
Hmm.
you don't have to do it all by yourself.
No,
Nobody can. So,
you're doing the walking down this road of discovery, but along the way are the people that are going to help you at whatever stage you're at. Be open and willing and ready to receive.
yeah, and that's a shift in the mind and the emotions and how we feel about ourselves, what we're worthy of and deserving of. And I if anyone's experiencing that, I just definitely encourage them to see the abundance in their relationships. And it's just a phone call, a text, an email to suddenly transform, you know, how much you believe you can do it because you're getting some help, right?
Yes, yes. And having that person, it also holds you accountable. But the thing is that the soul, the heart, and the spirit have their own intellect. They're connected to the universe. They work off that wisdom. And when we use the souls, divine God, universe, spirit, source, energy, whichever you want to tap into, and we let that wisdom sit with our heart and truth and go to our spirit interaction, our mind has the clarity it needs when it needs it. But one of the things we have to get out of our way is we have to talk to our mind and say, look, you're operating on an old program. If you continue to keep walking forward with this old program, you're not going to be able to receive the wisdom. Surrender and allow. And then the people you need and the wisdom you need in order to connect and move forward will be there. But that's that permission button that we have to press, isn't it?
Hmm. Yeah, I so deeply resonate with that. I I sometimes look back in old journals and I see that I was literally living from just my
Yes.
head up. I
Yes.
was so
Mm,
disconnected from my body and my heart and the messages from my gut, for instance,
yes.
too. And so now sometimes an exercise I use for myself and people I work with is, okay, let's check in with what your mind says, what your
Hmm.
heart says, what your gut says, and see what wisdom comes through. And it's always miraculous how there's different insights that we can
Mm.
tap in to navigate what we want to do next. So
It's actually kind of respecting our well-being by allowing all of it to have an input
mhm.
instead of just listening to one aspect. We don't just want to listen to the soul because then we're not going to resonate with the heart or go into action, right? It's about, okay, how do we listen to what all of ourselves is saying? And then, what is the objection, which the mind generally has an objection, right? And then when the heart and soul kind of gives the clarity, okay, then the mind can then drop the objection. But it needs the entire dialogue, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And, again, I think we are taught to use our
Yes,
intellect so deeply,
yes,
but we don't have many teachings or learnings in school or
nothing.
whatever of how to connect into
Yes.
other parts of ourselves. And so, these are very, very common things. And, it is possible to integrate this and to
Mm,
learn a new skill set and to tap into new tools and to do so at any stage in your life.
mhm.
There's always a time to make a pivot, to, like I was saying with the cosmic winks, follow the lamp that went this
Yes,
direction instead
yes.
of going that way. Just listening to that guidance.
Mm. And you work with men and women, right?
Yeah, these days I'm working primarily with women, but I certainly do work with men.
I think women we're definitely at that stage in life, not just age, but just where we are right now, where the woman's common sense is stepping up. We've been restrained and refrained for so long on somebody else's dictation of what we should be, that now we're stepping forth in who we really are, but we're also doing it with a very good common sense attitude, right? It isn't all about just suddenly kumbaya and floating around. It's like, now I can see how I can be progressive, productive, and do it passionately, do it with conviction, because the common sense part of being that woman, which I think is a gift to being a woman, you partner along with that, then it just helps you see the steps so much clearer, doesn't it?
Hmm. Yeah, and I certainly don't want to broad stroke things. So obviously there's room for nuance, but in
Yes.
my experience, in my practice, I've noticed there's very tall walls that
Yeah.
men have still. And I do notice that women are ready
Hmm.
to, maybe there's a tall wall, but there's a door there and they're
Yes.
ready to walk through it.
Yes.
So I find that there's an openness and a willingness and a need, a deep need to start to make a change because the second shift is exhausting them.
Yeah.
Wearing all the hats in the
Mm.
household is exhausting them, and they're ready to be a different way now.
I think what we're seeing, I mean, look at what's happening right now with Biden having stepped down and Kamala is now going to step up. Not only does she represent Asian and woman of color, but being a woman. And, she's been a prosecutor, she is a no nonsense. And I think that now becomes that beacon for other people, is that we can still be powerful while being empowering. And we don't have to lose our softness in doing it.
Yes, yes. My own life story is that I really lost touch with my feminine side
Mm,
and my empathy. Everything was very directed, pointed, achieving. I don't know.
mm.
I'm not, again, these are very broad strokes here. There's a lot of nuance.
You were
But look,
mechanical.
yeah, but looking
Yeah.
back, I certainly was only living from one type of energy
Yeah.
in my
Yeah.
life.
Mm,
There was no weaving or harmony between the two
right.
whatsoever.
And without that, we're out of balance, right? We're not connected to ourselves. We're not connected to anyone else. We can't have relationships because who are we, right? We're so busy being this expectation that and like energy matches like energy. And then we wonder why people have dysfunctional relationships. Well, you've come to it with your dysfunction,
Mhm.
right? So we have to work on ourselves to find our own equilibrium, our own self-love and love of who we are, why we are, love of life, and love of what we're contributing in order to attract that same.
Totally agree. And something I might add in addition to that is my own story is a story of control. I
Mm.
I had this idea that I could control the future if I only did this and that, like I could manage my
Mm.
circumstances. And that just wasn't true.
Yeah.
And you've already mentioned surrender and
Yes.
that kind of thing in this conversation, but the only thing that we truly have control over is ourselves.
Yes.
And we can't change other people. We can
Mm.
support people, but we have to start with the self. There's no other way.
Yeah.
And yeah, that takes a lot of courage.
Mm.
But then we can really start to surf the waves and enjoy the splashes and the different ebbs and flows of life
Mm.
versus, I would constantly use metaphors in the past of drowning or just feeling like there was another wave crashing on top of my
Yeah.
head, another
Yeah.
wave. If only I could just swim out of the way.
Yeah.
But now it's a totally different experience.
Now you're surfing on
I'm
top of the wave.
surfing. Yes. And it's so empowering. You have a different vantage
Mm.
point. You'll never predict exactly what's going to come up, but you know and trust in your feet
Mm.
and where
Yes.
you are, and that you have the ability and the capacity to surf it with grace.
Adapt, right? Adapt, adopt, pivot. That's the thing about we are fluid creatures and we need to live in fluidity. And all those expectations you had before, the reason why I said mechanical, because it was very mechanic and very restrictive. The flow of the machine has got to keep going to keep producing. But then there wasn't any creativity in that because it was just mechanical. And we're not machines, right? We're beautiful, divine creatures that are meant to have an essence that exudes from us. And that essence is a part of our contribution. And so if we deny ourselves that, we're denying our very purpose here on earth.
Yeah, and it's very confusing and disorienting
Mm,
when our entire identity is wrapped into one point of our lives.
yes.
My experience was that I was in agony, that I thought I didn't
Mm.
have any gifts. I didn't have any talents. I thought I have no hobbies. I have nothing,
Yet
and
you were
that's
such a high achiever, so you had nothing, all right? Oh, okay.
yeah. Well, and you're putting all of your eggs in this one basket,
Yeah.
right? Instead of like living the array of
Mm,
the tapestry that can be your life. But when you're just holding on to this one thread for all dear
yeah.
life and not exploring the different facets of your personality and the hobbies you enjoy and the ways you like to give within a community, it can be very disorienting and very, yeah, hopeless.
And you feel rather fake, don't you, when you're around people because you feel nobody sees me because I can't see myself. So, we are inclined to kind of look to other people, see me, fix me, tell me what to do when all we need is someone like yourself to switch us on under the inside, to press the right buttons in order for you to start connecting and be their support. Again, they've got to do the walking. but you're there to give them the tools and how to apply them along the way.
Yeah, and I also really love to think of it like a garden, you
Hmm.
know, of you can create an environment and you can shower love and encouragement and enthusiasm and all of these good things, and that's the conditions for humans to start believing in themselves and to start taking positive change within their lives. But I know again, speaking from personal experience, that the shame, the guilt, and the judgment
Yes.
are not the conditions in which we thrive. And so, if that's where our mind is, if that's what our support system looks like, we will certainly not feel empowered to make those new
Mm.
changes.
I think, you've hit on a big one, the shame and the guilt, like walking away from a powerful job. Is that my retirement, my quote, quote, gold watch? How can I walk away from this? I'm making this kind of money. And then people putting that pressure on you. Why are you walking away? What will you do now? Who would you be now? And that courage to say, well, I'm going to discover who I am now, what else there is for me, and to be able to do it without any of the judgment and the shame and the guilt that really has been imposed on you from the outside, because the inside doesn't have that.
Yeah, and sometimes we need a few examples of where we leaned into
Yeah.
that to learn the lesson. For myself, I had an opportunity to take a job that in my heart and my gut, I was very, very excited for. But I asked every single person in my life what I should do instead of asking myself and trusting my own guidance.
Uh-huh.
And someone in my life who's very into finance said, no, you need to keep this income. Someone else said this, someone else said
Mm.
this. And so I took all of this advice and instead of filtering it through my own lens and my
Yeah.
own
Mm.
perception and worldviews, I just took it as this is fact, right? And
Mm.
so, but through a self reflective process, we can learn from those experiences and again, not bring shame and guilt and
Yes.
judgment to the fact that it happened, but reflect on what we would do differently so that we can, yeah, navigate those opportunities or those pivot points in our lives differently in the future.
Yes. Oh, it's who to listen to on the outside, right? And, I get asked, who do I interview? Because I have so many different genres here and such a broad spectrum. And I said, all those that come from the heart, that are really have been there, done that, and now want to help other people through it. And it comes from the heart. It's not about the rah-rah, the six figures and the fame and this and that. It's about really wanting to shed light on somebody else's darkness so they could see their path forward. And the people that have gone through it themselves are the best teachers because you understand. You know the excuses, but you know how to empathize, right? You know what's needed, but then how does that person apply that tool? And so, this is the thing. If when you are hiring someone to help you on a journey, have they actually taken that journey? Have they actually experienced anything that they're teaching you? Because you want somebody where you feel, I resonate, I hear them, they hear me, right? That's important. So it's filtering out all the other people that I can do this for you, I can do that for you, and then trusting your gut and your heart. No, this person I know feels me and sees me. And that means taking the time to listen to podcasts, to reading, to exploring, to learning. To whom is it that can help you on your journey?
Absolutely. Yes, and I really do believe that, there's so many coaches, there's so many X, Y, and Z healers
Yeah.
out there, but I do believe that we will
Mm.
connect energetically, as we've
Yes.
talked about, to the people who we're meant to serve and um, we're seeking our service, right?
Yes.
So I, again, looking at the abundance of things, I don't see scarcity in the
Mm.
market or
Hmm.
anything like that. We're going to be who we're going to be for. And when we trust that we're being authentic and we're connecting, that's where we're going to find our
Yeah.
people and our people are going to find us.
What a different concept to what you had before, or the expectation of what you had to achieve. And now it is It's okay. I'm sending out the right vibrational message, and the people that need me will come, and I can trust and allow. Where in your past life, none of that. Trust and allow? What are you talking about? No, I've got to be in control. So you really have let go of the reins. But I will say, when you let go of that kind of control, you end up more in control.
Yeah, so well put. And it's exhausting to be
Yes.
wearing all of those masks all the
Ah,
time. It is so
for whom?
exhausting.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have to tell you that my wedding was actually a tremendously healing experience for me personally.
Hmm.
Obviously, it was a wonderful experience within my
Hmm.
relationship. Um, but through that, I still had some of my old programming coming
Yeah.
through, trying to make everything perfect, trying to make everyone happy. And once I was up there and just let myself be myself, and that people were going to love and support me for whomever that person was,
Hmm.
it was the final kind of energetic emotional release that I needed. It was a deeply healing experience for me. So, again, these things can, we keep using this water metaphor, but things can come in waves too.
Yes.
You think you've done all of this
Yeah.
healing, and then another round will come, and you'll just sink into that a little bit more.
It's knowing how to take that deep breath, right? You got to that point on your wedding day where you made the choice. I'm just going to be in the moment and just love the journey of this moment. And you took a deep breath and surrendered to the moment. And yeah, I mean, there's always stuff that we have to organize, and it can be frustrating and manage. Yeah, we still need those skills when we're doing things, but we've got to make sure that we don't end up being the pretzel, with a rubber band around it, that or even be able to hand it off to other people, surrender the control to other people, or even like my son is about to get married. And so 7 weeks before his wedding, he breaks his ankle in several parts. So we don't even know if he's going to be allowed to walk on his wedding day, right? So everything they had planned before the wedding and after the wedding gone out the window. It is what it is. The most important thing is the healing of the ankle so that he can walk again and adjust accordingly on the day, right? And I'm not going to get my mother and son dance unless he's in the wheelchair or something like that. But, it is, we shift that priority and go, okay, that's not important. What is the union and the happiness. Let's focus on that.
And I'm sure through your guidance, it's been so much easier to navigate that journey as well. I can imagine there's some disappointment there, but again, that's our humanness talking, not
Yes,
our spirits and what
right.
our purpose is, or what's the core ultimate
Hmm.
part of
Right.
that celebration is all about.
Yes.
So, yes,
The
well,
universe isn't out to get you, right? It's
no,
just these things happen in life. It's the human experience, and our attitude towards it will be whether it's something we suffer from or with something we fry through.
yes, yes. And it's reminding me of a story that I had this weekend actually with a friend who's so unlucky in housing, if you want to view it that way. She's had to move 3 times this year.
Already? Oh
Yes.
dear.
But she wants to make a really big move out of Canada into Europe. And perhaps this is the universe training her for that big move.
Yeah, yeah,
If like we can choose to see things differently. She's masterful at going with the flow and being uprooted and knowing what's important. So sometimes we're training for the big thing that's we
yeah. I,
need.
I can relate to that because, I've lived very much a nomad life, except for when having children, we're kind of, being not even in one place. We moved so many times, even when raising the children. Um, And I've just literally moved into my own home. And I said, the only way I'm actually going to come out of here is in a paper bag to the crematorium. No more moves. Because this was my 35th actual move in my life, never mind the small little ones I've done. And so, you know, people would say, oh, you're running away from yourself. I said, no, I'm looking for a sanctuary. And I'll know when that sanctuary comes, right? I know when I'm ready for that sanctuary. because when you have the sanctuary, you really feel the roots have got you, right? The
Mhm.
land has got you and you can blossom, you can be that garden in it. But if the soil doesn't feel right, you don't feel you can grow in there. So we have to be flexible and be willing to move around until we find that right soil.
Yes, yes. Well, I'm so happy that you found your soil
Yeah. I'm
that
still
you want
trying
to
to
be
find
in.
where to put everything, but that's, it's my place. So that's the important thing. And of course, I'm now closer to my grandchildren, which is also a joy, and they love coming to Nana's way too much, actually. But but it's and I think that's, for me, that became another thing. I used to work 8 days a week at podcasting. And then when I moved, 2 or 3 days a week now, I have the grandchildren. So that means my work is three, perhaps four if I'm lucky, but 3 solid days I can count on. And it was having to pivot and let go. You're doing 8 to 9 shows a week. So, okay, now you're doing three, four, or five, right? And it's okay. No, and it's kind of lighten up and let go, isn't it? It's like we put this expectation on ourselves. Well, why do I have to do nine? Right? 4 or 5 is perfectly all right. And I think what one of the things we need to look at is, are we being kind to ourselves? And I think kindness is something we're busy doing for everyone else, but when it comes to ourselves, we berate. We're not necessarily kind and nurturing.
Mhm. Yeah, I have this little mantra right off the side that you can't see here that says, do less to experience more of what matters. We need to make room for more, and to
Yeah.
make room often means to
Yes.
take away some of
Yes.
the things that are keeping us from having more of what we want. So I deeply resonate with what you just shared there.
But it's learning that lesson, isn't it? Is that even in our own self discovery of who we are now, living from the inside out, what's our meaningful purpose? You know, um, Even when you take on a coach like yourself, yes, you're going to help them on a journey so far. And then that next leg of journey, maybe someone else, or maybe they have to go wandering for a while. And it isn't about having someone that there as a crutch. It is having somebody there that is going to be the wind behind your back and help you propel forward. But we still have to take that onus and that responsibility of our journey because it is our journey, right? You're there to help with all your skills and tools and knowledge. I say with these shoes, listen, learn, and apply. But if you don't apply, how does it help you?
Yeah, and often people will ask me, do I have a guarantee of like what they're going to have at the end of this? I always say I guarantee that you're going to have my full heart, my full
Mm,
presence to support you to the best of my abilities.
yeah.
However, this is the path that you have to walk.
Yes.
And also recognizing, and again, once again, looking to nature for inspiration. Different plants and flowers blossom and harvest at
Yes.
different times in the years, and we just need to honor that your experience will be your experience, and it's
Yes.
not bad or good. I had
Yeah.
to take a decade of all
Yeah.
of these
Mm,
little openings in here because I was so tightly wound up myself. Um, but just honoring that, and if I'm just one point on the journey that
yeah.
opens up new pathways
Hmm.
for someone and what they think is possible, then I definitely see my work is done to the best of what I can do.
Exactly. There isn't a one size that fits all. And again, it's that you're going to give them a tool to apply, but again, how they apply it is also up to them. What they do with it is up to them. And I think, there's still a lot of people that go, well, just tell me what to do, fix me. Where's the downloadable app? And it's no, you have to participate in your journey. And it isn't about the destination. It isn't about the goal setting, but no, stop looking at yourself as a goal. All right. The goal actually is just to become connected with self and put one foot in front of the all and the other and see where life takes you.
Yeah. And find the beauty in that.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. I used to be the hare. I would have a vision and I'd want to rush to get it done, at the finish line. And I've become the tortoise, which I never thought I would be. But I'm enjoying being the tortoise because I am connecting so much more with the people along the way. And I'm gathering so much more enrichment and abundance because of it. As your quote there, less is more. Slowing down is going faster because the more we pay attention, the more we absorb what's needed in the now. And we're not wasting our time on all the other things that are just expectations.
Yeah, and it's hard on our mind and our
Yeah.
hearts and our bodies.
Yes.
My career was constantly leapfrogging over, different steps that I probably could have taken. I went from this title to now I'm head and director of this. And it was a very stressful experience because you're not mastering
Yeah.
that level that you're supposed to be at. And so, you know, by going from 1 to level 57 in a year
Yes.
is very taxing.
Hmm.
And I think,
Way too
you
much
know,
pressure. You're in the pressure cooker ready to just explode. Mm,
exactly, so much pressure, so much stress, and for what?
yeah.
To
I
get
mean,
to
there's
another
there's a,
level.
there's a very valuable word that a lot of people are very scared to use. No. Say no. Somebody wants to put something on you, say no. I've got a lot of people that pitch things to me all the time. I trust my core. If my core says, "Oh, it's interesting," investigate it further. If my core says no, I don't argue. It's no. But you could do this and you could do that and da 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 da. No, it's not for me. I know I can't be a part of it. I can feel the pushback. So we've got to learn to trust ourselves on that level, haven't we? We've got to learn to trust our inner intellect, which tells us yes. Just because somebody else, oh, you can do this, you can da 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 da. Are you that kind of energy? As if you're not, and you're more mellow, you don't want to be that kind of energy. It'll throw you off spiral.
Hmm. And it's, honoring other people's time
Yes,
and whatnot
yes,
instead of, it's a no and dragging it
yeah,
out. And now
exactly.
they're following up. Just be like, thanks for reaching out.
Yeah,
This isn't for me, but I
yeah,
wish you all the best on your path. And
exactly. And I think, a lot of people don't like to hear no. Well, that's their issue. You can be very firm with your no, without being aggressive. Um, but it is everybody's seeking, and I guess many people are still seeking the outside validation. And when you're inside, it's not about the validation of who you are. It is the embracement of who you are. And you just become so much more mellow. And that doesn't mean you're so laid back that life just passes you by. It's just that you know where to put your energy and where not.
mhm. Time is a very valuable resource.
Yes, exactly. And you want to spend it with people, even though you're helping people, you want the vibe to be cohesive. Because if it isn't, then it's like, nails on the chalkboard, right? And we don't need that because that's an interruptive of a good vibration. So again, it's okay for you to say no to somebody who potentially wants to hire you because you know that the vibe isn't there. And again, that comes back to us getting out of our own way, saying, I know I need help, I surrender, and I ask, I give you permission to help me. But then you've got to get out of the way and let you help them.
Hmm. Yeah, and even if it's like unclear right at the beginning,
Yeah.
maybe it becomes more clear once you've engaged in that opportunity or whatever. And so just continuing to honor that little voice and
Yeah.
that intuition within you, you
Yeah.
can still make a change even if you committed to something at one point in time. You can make a decision to step off that treadmill
Yes.
in the
Yes.
direction that you no longer want to go.
Yeah, exactly. So what is the process that you use with people? Obviously, you meet, you have a chat with them to find out that there is a connection, but what is your procedure?
Yeah, so I love working with freelancers and entrepreneurs and people looking at career pivots potentially, or at least evaluating it. My procedure is I always do a free breakthrough call for this exact
Hmm.
purpose. We check the vibe, we see if my story connects with them. I connect and see what their
Hmm.
goals are all about to see if that's something I support people with.
Mm.
And I'm, again, I live from this place of abundance now. So if I'm not the person meant to serve them, I will do my best to connect them with someone I think could be a better match. From there, I'm doing private coaching only right now. I'm working on my group coaching offering, but I love to start, especially if that burnout is really strong, the
Mm.
imagination is weakened. I love to start with the program I call the Wellbeing Routine Reset. And the title almost doesn't give it
Mm.
justice. It's really evaluating what are we thinking that's getting in the way? What are
Yeah.
we feeling that's getting in the way? Are there things we're doing within our body that are getting in the way of us
Mm.
having the energy to explore these things? So my private one-on-one coaching offering is available for people if they're interested. Um, and I also have some freebies out there,
Hmm.
for people to check that out. One is 3 easy steps to get out of the negative thought spiral. So it just teaches a process that you can lean on any time in the day and just explore. What are these saboteurs that are chit chatting in my mind?
Yes.
How do I label them? How do I get off this hamster wheel? Because as we mentioned on
Mm.
this call, you know, hopping on that hamster wheel and then feeling the guilt and shame for not taking action just
Yes.
spirals us down and down. So, this is meant to interrupt those thought processes so we can start to take the small actions that actually empower us and make us feel invigorated to start making changes in our lives.
I think what people need to understand is that we took a long time to get there with this old programming, right? It's not going to be done overnight. They say it takes 8 positives to undo one negative, and there's one hell of a lot of negatives that you're carrying around, right? And you've got to reprogram the mind to being able to see things differently, to act and embrace things differently. And that's not going to just happen just like that, repetition, constant immersement into it. So there has to be some persistence and participation that you are ready for this because a program doesn't not work. It's you're not working with the program, the new
Mhm.
program. And so you've got to be ready and willing to say, yes, I'm willing to take this step. And that is the greatest gift you can give yourself, isn't it? I am willing to step away from this and ask for help to go in a new direction.
Yes, and I would just echo some of the points that we've talked about in this conversation. If you feel like you've tried all of the external things to
Yes.
feel happiness and fulfillment, this well-being program is certainly for you because it is all about looking at the inside first.
Hmm.
And then people are always amazed when we start working on the inside in a program like this. We're not even necessarily specifically working on all of these
Yes.
external things, but suddenly opportunities are
Yeah.
opening. Suddenly we're seeing things from a new perspective. And it never ceases to amaze me how looking at the inside for a bit of time shapes people's outer selves and outer worlds.
Yeah. That's the thing, is that you're seeing life through a different lens, right? We've been so conditioned to look at it through one lens, and then we wonder why, that's all we can see. And when we start clearing away the old programming and leave space to actually see things differently, that's when we can actually start doing things differently. But we need that understanding of, what old programming is in the way and how we can restructure it to new programming, new dialogue with self, because that's a big one, isn't it? Our dialogue with self and how we can support ourselves on this journey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well said. And again, it's like taking this intangible and anchoring it down into the tangible actions. And it's a beautiful wedding of, you know, evoking awareness and insights of what we need to change, but also the actions, planning, and accountability to start walking that path.
Exactly. It doesn't happen unless you take action. right?
Mhm.
It doesn't happen if you're just thinking about it. It doesn't happen if you choose to live in misery or keep blaming everyone else. We'll say, well, you're pointing a finger at someone, there's three pointing back at you, right? Where's your accountability, your responsibility? What are you going to do about it? Because we have the power to change our environment by changing our insides. When we change the inside, our environment changes, and we then become the positive contribution to the world and not the misery and disillusioned.
Mhm. Yeah, and also just, honoring that again, you can be supportive, you can be supported. You don't have to do things on your own and figuring
Yes,
all of this out on your own. And even just externalizing what you've been wanting is such a powerful action that people kind of underestimate sometimes.
yes,
And so
yes.
even just that alone is a really beneficial part of the experience.
I think it's kind of clear your mind and then have a blank canvas and don't dictate what that goes on that canvas. Just let your heart, soul, and spirit paint that canvas for you, and you will be revealed, and your
Mhm.
journey forward will be revealed. We have to get out of the had ahead expectation and dictation, right? Because then otherwise, we're just going to be repeating the same old pattern. And
Mhm.
you did it, as you said, it took you a number of years to do, but now you've put it into a format and a program where people don't have to go into the Grand Canyon. They can have little potholes and get back up and certainly not have to take as long in order to get there. And that's the thing for people that have come before that have taken the time, they know how to be more efficient with your time and your recovery and your
Exactly.
self-discovery. So it doesn't have to take as long. But again, it's going to take as long as your participation in your willingness in it, as opposed to, you know, I can't be bothered today. But,
Mhm.
if you get a can't be bothered day, you might have just set yourself back. How about just three or four positives today, right? Three or four, just focus on those. It's all about changing the mind because the heart, spirit, and soul, they're already in gear. It's all to do with the noggin, right?
Yes, exactly.
So you've got this wonderful gift. So, what is your site? How do people get hold of you? Your social medias, etc.
Yeah, so I am the founder and coach of Crescent Coaching. That's my practice's name. People can reach me at Crescent, like the moon, crescentcoaching.ca. I'm most active.
cafolksnot.com, CA Canada.
CA,
Yes,
yes.
yeah,
.com was taken, but maybe one day.
yeah.
So CA, and I'm very active on LinkedIn. I connect with many busy professionals over there, but people can also find me on Instagram at Crescent Coaching, and my Facebook is Crescent Holistic Coaching
And then
as well.
links time you're under your name, Rebecca, Rebecca, Visser, Visser. So you're under your name under that. And of course, your free giveaway, the 3 easy steps to your negative thought spiral, can be found on crescentcoaching.ca. Stop Negative Thoughts Guide. And that's a great step to kind of start there, but book a call with you, right? And have the conversation because you want to work with someone where you feel they hear you and you really hear them, because that's the door opener. And if that door is open, then it's so much easier to walk through it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's always I always try to have a human to human sacred
Mm,
conversation with everybody. So, there's no pressure, no crazy sales tactics, no
yes.
whatever. Just are we connecting on a human and soul level? And I invite people to just chat with me. I'd love to hear what's going on in their world.
And it might be just that this call is the seeding. They're not quite ready, but you've seeded. And then when they are ready, then they come back. And that's the thing is that we can't force people to be ready, but we can seed those possibilities inside of them that as they walk forward, those seeds grow. Right. And that's the point of life is that people, if people aren't ready, they're not going to do the work. When they are ready, then they're ready to really come in and immerse into it. And that's where they get the most out of it. But as I say, the best teachers are those that have gone through it. You've devised this program out of, I mean, everything you did before, nothing was a waste because you've taken the skill set that you had and then taking what you needed yourself in order to recover and you've put it together in a program that now is productive and other people's self-discovery.
Yeah, and it's been a deeply healing experience for me too
Mm,
to put this
hmm
out there. So I certainly invite people to have a conversation. And just as you said, even if that's never working with me, I feel so much purposeful connection if
mm,
that lights a different path for somebody.
yeah. But it's always better to go with people that, again, have been there and that know it. And then you can feel the calmness. I mean, you can see, I mean, the person you talked about, the hurricane, right? There's no hurricane around you now. You're definitely calm waters. And this is what you want when you're on your own tumultuous journey. You need someone who around you that has calm waters, because they know how to bring you back down to center. The last thing you need is another hurricane around you, because then you've got a tornado that is and a hurricane collide and a twister and everything else. So, so we don't need any of that. So yes, having somebody that's been there, done that, that is calm, that can see things that you can't see, and is there to help you on that journey. That is what you need to help you through it. And no, we do not have to do this alone. This is what your purpose has become now. This is your service and your contribution to humanity now, to help people on their journey of who they really are and what their meaningful purpose is.
Mhm. Yes, well put. Thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank you very much. And remember, folks, you go over to the site Crescent, Crescent coaching, COACHING.ca, CA for Canada, LinkedIn, Rebecca Visser, Instagram, Crescent Coaching, Facebook, Crescent Holistic Coaching. And don't forget to get the free guide, start the process, because until you start the process, you're not going to get anywhere. You've got to be willing to start, listen, learn, apply. And they apply, maybe you just get the free guide, or you maybe book a call with Rebecca today. You have no idea whether it's going to work for you or not until you try to connect and see for yourself, right? It doesn't happen when you're on the sidelines. You've got to be proactive. So thank you so much, Rebecca, for not only honoring yourself and your own journey and realizing that, your spring had sprung and you couldn't keep winding anymore, and that was it. And taking the journey to happiness, putting that work in and now being there for other people on their journey. So thank you for taking that journey, because it's so important. This is more and more than ever. We need people like yourself out there helping people on their path.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to share part of my story. I had such a lovely, wonderful conversation with you today, and I hope some of what we chatted about resonated with folks.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of people can identify with it, and to realize that maybe they're in the hurricane and they're listening to this show for a reason, or they're on that path of self-discovery and they haven't yet found somebody that they resonate with. And so if you resonated with Rebecca, book a call. That's your next step. And then see where it goes from there. But this is your proactiveness, and it shows the willingness to want to discover yourself from the inside out and live that more productive, meaningful, purposeful life peacefully, far more peacefully. Who needs the hurricane? No, thank you. Thank you so much, Rebecca. And to everyone out there, be kind to yourself, okay? Bye for now. We hope that you enjoyed the show. There are so many more for you here on selfdiscoverywisdom.com. Just go to the podcast tag at the top there and you will see all the many genres and all 3,000 shows ready for your listening. We are here to serve you, to help you on your journey of life, and we know that through inspiration it begets invitation. We are supported by you, the listeners, and those that we interview. Anything that you can spare us in donation would be greatly accepted, and we do hope that you enjoy the next show.